The moment I found those condoms hidden in my husband's glove compartment, 31 years of marriage flashed before my eyes. 10 condoms. Unopened. In Franklin's meticulously clean car. The same Franklin who hadn't touched me in over 8 months. My hands trembled as I held the evidence of his betrayal. The box felt heavy, weighted with lies. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Instead, something cold and calculated took over. If you're new here, hit subscribe right now because what I did next will make you question everything you thought you knew about revenge. My name is Georgia Baldwin, Gigi to everyone who knows me. At 54 years old, I never imagined I'd be sitting in my driveway, planning how to catch my husband in the most humiliating way possible. But that's what betrayal does to a woman who's given her entire life to a man. I met Franklin when I was barely 23, still full of dreams and naive enough to believe in forever. He wasn't perfect, charming men rarely are, but he was mine. He promised me the world in a little church outside of Atlanta, and for most of our marriage, he kept that promise. We built a good life together. A 4-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood. 2 children, Taylor and Kimberly, both grown now with lives of their own. Family dinners every Sunday after church. 31 years of shared meals, shared dreams, shared struggles. But something changed last year. Little things at first. Franklin started working later. His phone would ding at odd hours, and he'd take it to another room to answer. New cologne. New underwear. New passwords on his devices. Just work stress, he'd say when I asked about his distance. Client calls, he'd mumble when slipping away during dinner. After 3 decades of marriage, you develop a 6th sense about these things. You know when something's off, like a familiar song played in the wrong key. I ignored it at first. Convinced myself I was being paranoid. Told myself that marriages go through phases. But deep down I knew. A woman always knows. That Thursday started like any other. My car wouldn't start, battery issues again, so Franklin offered his for my weekly grocery run. Just be careful with my baby, he joked, tossing me his keys. His precious black Lexus was always immaculate, not even a gum wrapper on the floor. I was looking for his insurance card when I found them. Hidden beneath some papers in the glove compartment. A box of expensive condoms. 10 of them. We hadn't used protection since before Kimberly was born. Franklin had a vasectomy 20 years ago. The world stopped spinning for a moment. The weight of realization crushing my chest. Those condoms weren't for me. They were never meant for me. I sat there, box in hand, as memories flooded back. The late nights. The secret phone calls. The way he'd shower before even hugging me when he got home. All the signs had been there, but I'd refused to see them. A single tear slid down my cheek, quickly followed by another. Then something shifted inside me. The sadness hardened into something else entirely. Something with teeth and claws. I wiped my tears and smiled. Not a happy smile, but the kind that would make you nervous if you saw it. Because in that moment, sitting in Franklin's pristine car with those condoms in my hand, I didn't just want answers. I wanted justice. And I knew exactly how I was going to get it. Looking back, Franklin's betrayal had left breadcrumbs for months. I just refused to connect them. It started with his phone. Always face down, always password protected. For 28 years, we knew each other's passcodes. Not from snooping, but from trust. Then suddenly, work security protocols, he claimed. His schedule changed too. Franklin had been a clockwork man our entire marriage. Home by 6:15, dinner at 6:30. But last year, 6:15 became 7:30, then 8:45. Client meetings, traffic, work emergency. His excuses mounted faster than our bank account. The physical signs were impossible to miss. New cologne. Expensive stuff, Not the kind I'd bought him for Christmas. Designer underwear replacing the comfort brands he'd worn for decades. Gym memberships he barely used, yet somehow he was getting his steps in every day. Our bedroom, once a sanctuary, became foreign territory. His touches grew rare, then disappeared entirely. "Too tired," he'd mumble, turning away from me. 8 months without intimacy felt like a desert with no end in sight. When I found those condoms, something inside me, the faithful, trusting wife of 31 years, cracked clean in half. I ran my fingers over the expensive box, premium brand, extra sensation type. My stomach lurched. I felt physically ill, like someone had punched me directly in the heart. "Who is she?" I whispered to no one, my voice breaking the silence of his pristine car. "How long? How many?" The questions spun like a tornado through my mind. I thought about the countless dinners I'd kept warm while he was working late. The anniversary where he claimed food poisoning and spent the night on the couch. The business trip that got extended by 3 days with barely an explanation. If you're feeling that knot in your stomach right now, hit that subscribe button. Because every woman deserves to know when she's being played for a fool. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Tears streamed down my face, but they weren't sad tears. They burned with rage, with humiliation, with 3 decades of devotion thrown away like yesterday's trash. I could have confronted him right then, called him at work, thrown his clothes on the front lawn like they do in movies. But Franklin Baldwin had taken enough from me already. He wasn't going to take my dignity too. I carefully returned the condoms to their hiding place, wiped my tears, and drove to the grocery store as planned. I bought everything on my list, smiled at the cashier, and chatted with neighbors in the parking lot. No one would have guessed that inside, I was plotting something that would change all our lives forever. What I did next wouldn't just expose his lies, it would burn them to the ground. That night, I watched Franklin eat the dinner I'd prepared, his favorite pot roast with extra gravy. He complimented the meal, kissed my cheek, and told me he loved me. The lies fell so easily from his lips, I wondered how I'd ever believed them. Later, alone in our bathroom, I stared at myself in the mirror. "Confront him," the good Christian woman in me urged. 31 years deserves a conversation. But another voice spoke louder. My mother's voice, from years ago when my college boyfriend cheated. "Men like that only learn when it hurts." For hours, I wrestled with my conscience. Was revenge beneath me? Yes. Did Franklin deserve it anyway? Absolutely. By morning, I'd made my decision. If he wanted to play dirty, I could get my hands dirty too. I waited until Franklin left for work, his goodbye kiss landing somewhere near my ear as he rushed out. Then I went to the kitchen and pulled out my secret weapon, Louisiana Pure Crystal Hot Sauce, the extra spicy kind that Franklin couldn't even handle on his eggs. I carefully removed the condoms from his car, bringing them into our kitchen. With surgical precision, I opened each package, being cautious not to tear the wrapper. One by one, I unrolled them slightly, just enough to access the surface. Using a cotton swab, I coated each one with a thin layer of hot sauce, focusing on the areas that would cause maximum discomfort. "This is for the late nights," I whispered, dabbing hot sauce. "This is for the lies." Another dab. "This is for making me doubt myself." The final touch. I let them dry completely. I didn't want any telltale stains on the packaging. Then I carefully re-rolled them and sealed each wrapper as close to perfect as possible. Even under inspection, they looked untouched. Returning to his car, I placed them exactly as I'd found them. My heart pounded against my ribcage, but my hands remained steady. Years of quilting had given me the precision needed for such delicate work. Back inside, I washed my hands thoroughly, making sure not a trace of hot sauce remained. Then I sat at our kitchen table, sipping tea, feeling strangely calm. I knew it might take days or even weeks. I knew he might never use them. But the trap was set. All I had to do was wait. What I didn't realize was how that waiting would change me, or that the consequences would reach far beyond Franklin. Days passed. I watched Franklin like a scientist observing a specimen under glass. He continued his routine: late nights, secret phone calls, weekend golf games that never produced tan lines. But now, instead of pain, each lie sparked anticipation. I was the cat watching the mouse, knowing the trap was set. I played my role perfectly. Dutiful wife. Excellent cook. Unsuspecting victim. I ironed his shirts with the same care I always had, smiling at the thought of where those shirts might end up, and what might happen there. "You seem different," he said over breakfast one morning, studying me. I sipped my coffee. Different how? I don't know. Happier. I smiled. Just counting my blessings. The psychological chess match was exhausting but exhilarating. Each time his phone buzzed, I wondered, is this the day? Each time he came home late, did he use one? Is he burning right now? 2 weeks into my waiting game, I noticed the condoms had changed position in his glove compartment. 2 were missing. My stomach tightened. It was happening. That Sunday, we hosted our monthly family dinner. Taylor, our son, arrived first with his wife Natalie. At 32, Taylor had his father's height but my sense of humor. Natalie, his wife of 5 years, was everything I once hoped to be: confident, beautiful, ambitious. "Mom, you look amazing," Taylor said, hugging me tight. "New haircut." I touched my freshly trimmed hair. Just a trim. Nothing special. Natalie offered a stiff hug. "The house looks wonderful as always, Gigi." Was it my imagination, or did she avoid eye contact? Had she always called me Gigi instead of Mom? Franklin emerged from upstairs, cologne announcing his arrival before he did. "There's my boy." He embraced Taylor with the enthusiasm of a politician working a crowd. When he hugged Natalie, something flickered between them. A moment too long, a space too close. She adjusted her necklace nervously, and I noticed her perfectly manicured hands trembling slightly. "Dinner's almost ready," I announced, retreating to the kitchen. Throughout the meal, I watched them. The way Franklin passed dishes to Natalie, their fingers brushing. The inside jokes I wasn't part of. The way her laugh sounded different for him than for others. Could it be my own daughter-in-law? I dropped a fork deliberately, bending to retrieve it. Under the table, I noticed their feet touching. Not accidental. Intentional. A cold wave washed over me. The hot sauce trap suddenly felt inadequate for the depth of this betrayal. If this story is hitting close to home, hit subscribe now. Because what happened next proved that family secrets never stay buried for long. When Kimberly, our daughter, arrived late with apologies about traffic, the tension briefly lifted. But throughout dessert, I caught Franklin checking his phone under the table, a small smile playing on his lips. Across from him, Natalie's phone buzzed. She excused herself to the bathroom. Franklin waited 2 minutes exactly, I timed it, before mumbling something about checking the water heater and disappearing down the hallway. I served coffee, my hands steady despite the earthquake in my heart. I was no longer just waiting for my trap to spring. I was waiting for my family to implode. 3 days after our family dinner, it happened. The clock had just struck 11:30 p.m. when I heard Franklin's car in the driveway. Usually, he'd slink in quietly, but tonight the front door slammed open. I looked up from my book to see my husband stumbling into our living room, doubled over in pain. His face was flushed crimson, sweat pouring down his forehead. He could barely stand upright. "Franklin," I gasped, setting my book aside. "What on earth happened to you?" He couldn't even look at me. Something's wrong, he groaned, clutching his groin area. I think I need a doctor. I rushed to his side, the concerned wife. Let me get you some water. Should I call an ambulance? No. He barked, then softened his tone. No ambulance. Just need to lie down. I helped him to the couch, noting how he winced with each step. His hands trembled as he loosened his belt. Franklin, you're scaring me, I said, my voice steady despite the satisfaction blooming inside me. What happened? Must be food poisoning, he muttered. Bad sushi at lunch. I nodded sympathetically. Sushi, huh? That's strange. Your secretary told me you had lunch at the steakhouse when I called earlier. His eyes widened slightly before he recovered. After that, grabbed sushi, later. I brought him ice, played the dutiful nurse as he writhed on our couch. Every groan was music, confirmation that my trap had sprung exactly as planned. Should I call Dr. Matthews? I offered, knowing our family doctor was away at a conference. I'll be fine, he insisted through gritted teeth. Just need to sleep it off. Eventually, he dragged himself upstairs, locking himself in our guest bathroom for nearly an hour. The shower ran continuously. When he finally emerged, he collapsed into bed without a word, sleeping as far from me as possible. I lay awake beside him, listening to his troubled breathing, wondering whose bed he'd planned to be in tonight. The next morning, I cheerfully prepared his favorite breakfast, Eggs Benedict with hollandaise sauce. He poked at it weakly, still looking feverish. You should stay home today, I suggested. You don't look well. Can't, he mumbled. Important meeting. The phone rang as he was forcing down his coffee. I answered with my usual cheerful Baldwin residence. Hello, this is Melissa from Dr. Grant's office, said a professional female voice. I'm calling for Mr. Franklin Baldwin. I covered the receiver. It's a doctor's office, honey. Someone named Dr. Grant. Franklin's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. Terror flashed across his face. He's indisposed at the moment, I told Melissa sweetly. Can I take a message? Please let him know his test results are back, and he needs to come in for treatment immediately. The antibiotics for his condition are ready for pickup. My heart pounded as pieces clicked into place. What condition would that be? I'm his wife. A pause. I'm sorry, Mrs. Baldwin. Patient confidentiality. Please just have him call us back urgently. When I hung up, Franklin was already grabbing his keys, mumbling about being late. Who's Dr. Grant? I asked innocently. Just a specialist, he muttered. Routine checkup. After he left, I did something I'd never done in 31 years of marriage. I went through his things. In his sock drawer, tucked beneath his winter thermals, I found it, a hotel receipt from the Westwood downtown. Premium suite, champagne service, dated just last week. But it wasn't Franklin's name on the receipt that made my knees buckle. It was Natalie Baldwin. My daughter-in-law had charged a romantic hotel suite to her credit card. The room spun around me as the full truth came crashing down. My husband wasn't just cheating. He was sleeping with our son's wife. If your stomach just dropped to the floor, hit subscribe now. Because families hide secrets darker than you could ever imagine, and you won't believe what happened when my son discovered the truth. How do you breathe when your world implodes? How do you function knowing your husband and daughter-in-law are having an affair behind your son's back? I moved through the next days like a ghost haunting my own life. Made meals. Did laundry. Smiled at neighbors. All while carrying a bomb that could destroy everyone I loved. Part of me wanted to call Taylor immediately. My precious boy deserved to know. But another part hesitated. Exposing them would shatter him. Was it my place to deliver that blow? Franklin's condition improved, though he still walked gingerly. He returned to his routine of late nights and secret calls, unaware that I knew everything. Each kiss goodbye felt like acid on my skin. I watched Natalie's social media obsessively. There she was, posting happy couple photos with Taylor while commenting on Franklin's business posts with professional admiration. The performance was flawless. Had I not seen the evidence myself, I'd never have suspected. One photo particularly gutted me, Taylor surprising Natalie with anniversary flowers at her office. My son's face beamed with love and pride, completely unaware he was being betrayed by the two people he trusted most. 6 days after discovering the hotel receipt, I hosted another family dinner. I needed to see them together, to confirm what my heart already knew. "Mom, these potatoes are amazing," Taylor said, helping himself to seconds. "No one cooks like you." Franklin nodded in agreement. "Your mother's always been a wonder in the kitchen." "Oh, I don't know," I said, locking eyes with Natalie. "I hear your wife has quite remarkable taste. Particularly when it comes to selecting hotel rooms." The color drained from Natalie's face. Franklin choked on his wine. "What?" Taylor looked confused. "When did you stay at a hotel?" Natalie recovered quickly, smoothing her napkin. "For that conference last month, remember? Gigi and I were just discussing how nice the amenities were." I smiled tightly. "The Westwood has excellent champagne service, doesn't it?" A flash of panic crossed her eyes before she nodded. "Top notch." Kimberly, unusually quiet throughout dinner, suddenly stood. "Anyone want coffee? I'll make it." "I'll help," I said, following her to the kitchen. As I measured coffee grounds, I noticed Kimberly's hands trembling. She avoided my eyes, rearranging mugs needlessly. "Honey." I touched her arm. "Is everything okay?" She jumped slightly. "Fine, Mom. Just tired from work." "You know you can tell me anything, right?" I pressed gently. Her eyes welled with tears before she blinked them back. "Some things are better left unsaid." My stomach dropped. Did Kimberly know? How long had she been carrying this secret? Before I could probe further, Franklin appeared in the doorway. "Need any help, ladies?" "We're fine," Kimberly said, suddenly cold. "Just catching up." The tension between them crackled like static electricity. Back at the table, I observed my broken family pretending to be whole. Franklin complimented Natalie's earrings with too much familiarity. Natalie laughed at his jokes with practiced ease. Taylor, oblivious, discussed sports and politics while his wife and father exchanged glances over his shoulder. Kimberly watched it all, drinking too much wine and speaking too little. I was drowning in lies. Lies told to my son, lies about my marriage, lies we told ourselves that this dinner was normal. The weight of truth pressed against my chest until I could barely breathe. When Taylor mentioned their upcoming anniversary trip, my control nearly snapped. I gripped my knife so hard my knuckles turned white, imagining all the ways I could expose them right then. But looking at my son's trusting face, I couldn't do it. Not yet. Not like this. If you've ever had to choose between painful truth and merciful silence, hit subscribe. Because the decision I made next would either save my family or destroy it completely. As the evening wound down, Taylor helped Franklin set up the new smart TV in the den while Natalie and I cleared dishes. "That was a lovely dinner, as always," Natalie said, her voice artificially bright. I handed her a plate to dry. "Tell me something, Natalie. Does my son know what kind of woman he married?" Her hands froze. "I don't know what you mean." "I think you do." I kept my voice steady, almost conversational. "Sweet 714. Champagne for two. Not exactly conference accommodations, are they? The plate slipped from her fingers, shattering on the tile floor. Oh dear, I said calmly. Accidents happen when people get nervous. 1 week later, my phone rang at 2:17 a.m. Franklin's side of the bed was empty, another late night at the office. Mrs. Baldwin? An unfamiliar voice. This is Nurse Winters from Memorial Hospital. Your husband has been admitted with severe inflammation and possible infection. He's asking for you. My heart raced as I dressed quickly. So the hot sauce had done its work again, this time bad enough for hospitalization. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, a strange calm settled over me. The endgame was approaching. The hospital corridors gleamed under fluorescent lights as I followed signs to the urology department. A young nurse led me to room 423, explaining in hushed tones that Mr. Baldwin was in considerable pain but stable. I found Franklin propped up in bed, and 4 in his arm, his face gray with pain and humiliation. Georgia, he rasped when he saw me. Thank God you're here. I took his hand, playing the devoted wife one final time. What happened? He looked away. Some kind of allergic reaction. The doctors are running tests. An allergic reaction, I repeated slowly. To what, Franklin? Before he could answer, a doctor entered, young, professional, clipboard in hand. Mrs. Baldwin? I'm Dr. Porter. Your husband has a severe inflammatory response and chemical burns in his genital region. Quite unusual case, actually. Franklin's grip on my hand tightened in warning. Chemical burns? I widened my eyes innocently. How would something like that happen? Dr. Porter glanced at Franklin. Well, we're still determining the exact cause. Some products can cause reactions, spermicides, lubricants, certain types of latex. But we don't use any of those products, I interrupted, looking directly at Franklin. We haven't been intimate in nearly a year. And my husband had a vasectomy 2 decades ago. The doctor's eyebrows rose slightly. I see. Well, I should let you two talk. We'll be monitoring him overnight, but the worst seems to have passed. After he left, Franklin dropped my hand like it burned him. You knew, he whispered, realization dawning in his eyes. 10 condoms in the glove compartment, I said quietly. Louisiana hot sauce does leave quite a sting, doesn't it? His face contorted with anger. You did this to me? You could have caused permanent damage. Funny, I replied. I was about to say the same thing about what you did to our family. His eyes darted to the door, looking for escape. Georgia, let me explain. Explain what? How you've been sleeping with our daughter-in-law. How you've been betraying not just me, but our son too. Please, Franklin. I'm dying to hear that explanation. The color drained from his face. How did you? The Westwood Hotel. Suite 714. Champagne service. Natalie's not as careful with receipts as you are with condoms. Just then, the door swung open. Taylor stood there, still in his pajama pants and a hastily thrown-on sweater, his face taut with worry. Dad. Mom texted me you were in the hospital. What happened? Behind him, Natalie appeared, looking unnaturally polished for 3 a.m. The 4 of us froze in a tableau of impending disaster. Taylor, I began gently. Maybe we should talk outside. No, Franklin interrupted. Son, your mother's not thinking clearly. She's upset and making wild accusations. Taylor looked between us, confusion clouding his features. What accusations? Dad, why are you even here? What's wrong? Dr. Porter chose that unfortunate moment to return, tablet in hand. Good news, Mr. Baldwin. The burns appear superficial. No permanent damage from the contact with the spermicide and hot sauce substance. A deadly silence fell over the room. Spermicide. Taylor's voice cracked. Hot sauce? What the hell is going on? Natalie stepped forward, touching Taylor's arm. Baby, let's give your parents privacy. He shook her off. No, I want to know what's happening. Dad, why would you be exposed to spermicide? Mom said you had a vasectomy years ago. I met Franklin's panicked eyes across the hospital bed. For 31 years, I'd protected him, even from his own mistakes. Now, I simply stepped aside and let truth do its work. Your father's been having an affair, I said quietly. Taylor's shoulders slumped in visible relief. Jesus, is that all? I mean, it's terrible, but why the secrecy? Why am I here at 3 a.m. for this? Franklin and Natalie exchanged a glance so telling it might as well have been a confession. Taylor caught it. His relief morphed into confusion, then horror as understanding dawned. No, he whispered, looking between his father and his wife. No, that's not. You wouldn't. Natalie stepped toward him. Taylor, please. How long? He roared, making a nurse peek in from the hallway. When neither answered, I did. The hotel receipt was dated last week. But the way they interact, I'd guess months at least. Taylor turned to Natalie, tears streaming down his face. While I was working nights to save for our future. While I was planning our anniversary surprise. You were with my father. If your heart is racing right now, hit subscribe. Because this confrontation was just the beginning of how 30 years of family secrets came crashing down. Franklin tried to sit up, wincing in pain. Son, it just happened. We never meant to hurt you. Just happened. Taylor's laugh was hollow. What, you tripped and fell into bed with my wife? Repeatedly. Natalie was openly crying now. Taylor, please, it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything? He echoed. Then why keep doing it? Why risk everything? Our marriage? Your relationship with your son? This last part he hurled at Franklin. Hospital security appeared at the door. Everything okay in here? No, Taylor said bitterly. Nothing's okay. But we'll keep it down. When they left, Taylor turned to me, his face crumpled in anguish. Did you know? How long have you known? Just over a week, I said softly. I found evidence, then set a trap to confirm it. The hot sauce, he realized, looking at his father's fore. That was you. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw a flicker of pride break through Taylor's devastation. I wanted proof before I told you, I explained. I never wanted you to feel this pain. Taylor nodded, then turned to face Franklin and Natalie, standing together yet painfully apart. I want a divorce, he told Natalie flatly. And you, he said to Franklin, are no longer my father. He walked out without another word, leaving behind the wreckage of what was once our family. 2 weeks after the hospital confrontation, the dust had begun to settle into new, uncomfortable patterns. Franklin moved into a hotel, not the Westwood notably. Taylor stayed with his college friend while filing for divorce. Natalie called daily, leaving tearful voicemails that no one returned. I moved through our empty house like a ghost, touching photographs from happier times, wondering how many smiles had been genuine and how many had masked secrets. I was watering plants on the back porch when Kimberly's car pulled into the driveway. My daughter had been suspiciously scarce since the hospital incident, claiming work deadlines and a sudden case of flu. She looked tired, dark circles underlining eyes so much like her father's. We embraced briefly before settling at the kitchen table, 2 mugs of tea creating steam between us. How are you holding up? she asked, not quite meeting my gaze. I traced the rim of my mug. Some days are better than others. Your brother's the one I worry about. Kimberly nodded, fidgeting with her watch. Have you talked to Dad? Only through lawyers. 31 years ends with paperwork and property division. I tried to keep the bitterness from my voice. How about you? You've been distant. She stared into her tea as if it held answers. I've been struggling with something, Mom. The tremor in her voice sent warning signals through me. I reached for her hand. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't think you'll want to after I tell you. My heart pounded. Try me. Kimberly took a deep breath. I knew, Mom. About Dad and Natalie. I've known for almost a year. The words hit me like physical blows. One by one, sharp and precise. You knew. I whispered, my voice barely audible. For a year. She nodded, tears flowing freely now. I caught them together at Dad's office last Christmas. I went to surprise him with lunch, used my key, and found them. My mind flashed to last Christmas, Kimberly's sudden stomach flu that had her leaving our family gathering early. The way she could barely look at Franklin during gift exchanges. Why didn't you tell me? The question came out hollow, echoing the emptiness spreading through my chest. I confronted them, she continued, voice cracking. They swore it was a one-time mistake, that they'd ended it. Dad begged me not to destroy the family over a moment of weakness. I believed him. I pulled my hand away from hers. And when it continued, when it became clear it wasn't just one time. I tried to talk to Dad again in March. He promised he was ending it for real. Her shoulders slumped. Then in May, I saw his credit card statement when I was helping with taxes. More hotel charges. Each word was another crack in my foundation. My own daughter had known while I cooked and cleaned and slept beside a traitor. So you protected him, I said flatly. You chose him over me. No. Kimberly protested. I was trying to protect everyone. You, Taylor, our whole family. A bitter laugh escaped me. By keeping me in the dark? By watching me play the fool while my husband slept with my daughter-in-law. I threatened to tell Taylor if they didn't stop. Natalie promised they would. Kimberly's voice dropped to a whisper. But I saw them together again 2 weeks before you found the condoms. At Dad's company picnic, disappearing into his office for 20 minutes. Something inside me that had been barely holding together finally shattered completely. 31 years of marriage, 2 children raised, countless family dinners and holidays, all built on quicksand. My own daughter, I whispered, a sob catching in my throat. My own flesh and blood knew I was being betrayed and said nothing. Mom, please, Kimberly reached for me. I stood, backing away from her. Did you laugh about it? Poor clueless Gigi, so trusting, so blind. Never. It was killing me. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. But you could sit across from me at dinner, knowing what you knew, I cut in. You could watch me serve the man who was betraying me, and say nothing. Kimberly's face crumpled. I was wrong. So wrong. I've regretted it every day. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The guilt had been eating her alive, visible in her rapid weight loss, in the anxiety medication I'd spotted in her purse. Get out, I said quietly. Mom. I need time, Kimberly. Please. Just go. After she left, I collapsed onto the kitchen floor, sobs racking my body until I could barely breathe. My husband, my daughter-in-law, my daughter, all conspirators in my humiliation. The betrayal had metastasized beyond my marriage into the very heart of my family. I curled into myself, feeling more alone than I had ever been. The house I'd made a home for decades suddenly felt like a museum of lies. If you've ever been betrayed by those closest to you, hit that subscribe button. Because what I did next changed all of our lives forever. 3 months later, I stood in an empty bedroom, surrounded by boxes labeled donate and storage. 31 years of marriage distilled into cardboard containers and permanent marker. I'd sold the house. Too many ghosts haunted its rooms. With my share of the proceeds and Franklin's retirement account, non-negotiable in the divorce, I'd purchased a small bungalow closer to my sister in Savannah. The divorce finalized with clinical efficiency. Franklin didn't contest anything, perhaps out of guilt, perhaps just wanting freedom. Either way, I emerged financially secure, if emotionally bankrupt. My phone chimed, a text from Taylor. He'd finally agreed to meet for coffee tomorrow. We'd spoken only briefly since the hospital confrontation, his pain too raw for regular contact. His divorce from Natalie processed even faster than mine from Franklin, leaving him single and adrift at 32. Kimberly and I had begun the slow work of rebuilding trust. Weekly therapy sessions, painful conversations about loyalty, truth, and the damage of secrets. Some days I couldn't look at her without remembering her betrayal. Other days, I glimpsed the little girl who once trusted me with her every fear and dream. As for Franklin and Natalie, they'd both disappeared from Atlanta altogether. Rumors placed them in Phoenix, starting fresh where their history wasn't written on every face they met. Franklin had taken early retirement, his reputation at the firm tarnished beyond repair after the scandal broke. I packed the last of my cookbooks, pausing at the one where I'd first learned to make Franklin's favorite meals. Inside the cover, a younger me had written, "The way to forever is through his stomach." I almost smiled at my naivety. The bottle of Louisiana hot sauce still sat in my spice cabinet, a reminder not of revenge, but of reclamation. That sauce hadn't just exposed a cheater, it had freed a woman who'd forgotten her own power. Looking back, the hot sauce wasn't the real catalyst for change. The truth was always going to surface eventually. Affairs leave evidence like tidewater leaves shells on the shore. My trap simply accelerated the inevitable. The real change came after, in how I chose to rebuild myself from the wreckage. I'd spent 31 years being Franklin's wife, Taylor and Kimberly's mother. In the aftermath, I discovered Georgia Baldwin, a woman with her own desires and dreams deferred. At 54, I enrolled in community college classes, something Franklin had subtly discouraged years ago. I joined a hiking group and discovered muscles I hadn't used in decades. I dated occasionally, nothing serious yet, but enough to remind me that desire doesn't die with divorce. The pain hasn't vanished. Some mornings I still reach for Franklin's side of the bed before remembering. Some nights I wake from dreams where my family sits together at dinner, whole and happy. Grief comes in waves, but each one crests lower than the last. What surprised me most was discovering my own resilience. The woman who found those condoms believed her life was ending. The woman packing these boxes knows it was merely changing direction. If there's a lesson in my story, it's this: truth hurts, but secrets destroy. Had Franklin confessed his wandering eye years ago, perhaps we could have addressed it. Had Kimberly spoken up when she first discovered the affair, perhaps Taylor could have been spared public humiliation. Instead, we all paid prices higher than necessary because lies compound like interest on a debt that eventually comes due. I closed the final box and sealed it with tape. Tomorrow, the movers would come. Tomorrow, a new chapter would begin. If you're living with secrets or suspicions right now, hit subscribe. Because the longer you wait for truth, the more it costs when it finally arrives. The hot sauce did its job. It burned out the infection in my life. The healing, though, came from my own hands. From choosing myself when everyone else had chosen against me. And in the end, that choice made all the difference.